Hi friends, it's Gwen. Welcome back to my channel. If you don't remember or you happen to have missed it, I put myself on a book buying ban back in February of this year. And let's be honest, if I knew things were going to end up like this, I never would have done it. But I did learn a few things, or shall I say, I have a few thoughts, and I thought I would share them with you today. And I wanted to share them with you in case you're thinking of going on a book buying ban, and just to generally share my experience with you. So this is going to be my book buying ban update. First, I think I'll just go over like why I went on a ban in the first place. And I think I did describe it in that video pretty well, but it was basically me working full time, not having a lot of time to dedicate to reading, having a TBR shelf just overflowing with books that I was super excited to get to, so why add to it, and just generally wanting to shift my spending habits away from books for a while and spend it on other things. Some of you pointed out that this came off as really privileged, and I do acknowledge my privilege, and I understand that not everybody is in the same situation that I'm in, and I could have lied. I could have come up with some sob story to tell you guys, but I decided to be open and honest and transparent with you, and that's all I can really say about that. However, let's go ahead and move on with the update. So my original intent was not to buy any books for the months of March and April. And May, I was like, it just depends on where I am in the process. I did end up being on a book buying ban for the past 3 months, March, April, and May. So while I was technically on a book buying ban for 3 months, I still did manage to get a lot of books. And I just wanted to go ahead. I did share them in like my wrap-ups and stuff like that, but I wanted to just share them here with you as well. And it kind of goes into like showcase the reason why I went on a ban in the first place. So for the first month of my ban, it was in March, and I only brought in one book, and that book was The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver, and this was my book of the month book. So I picked one book from book of the month, and yeah, I got this. I read it already, and I have a review kind of ranty video on my channel about this if you are interested. But yeah, so it was kind of like, I was really proud that I only brought in the one book because it was my book of the month, but I went ahead and read it as well, so that made it even like better. For April, I got quite a bit more. But again, I had my book of the month books. I actually picked two. So I got the Guest List by Lacey Foley, but I've already read this and I absolutely loved it. And then I also got Beach Read by Emily Henry. I haven't read this one yet, but I do have plans to read it this month. Also got a book from my neighbor, so I didn't actually purchase this book. It's just my neighbor left it on my front porch, and it is The Book Charmer by Karen Hawkins, and she just thought I would really enjoy this book, and the premise does sound really cool. And then my husband gifted me 2 books. He knew I was kind of like in a mood, and he knows that books cheer me up, so he bought me these 2 books. He got me The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine, which I have read, and Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, which I have also read. So March is where it got a little bit trickier. As you know, like, I had been quarantined for about 2 months, and it was getting a little bit harder, and I was starting to realize some things, which we'll get into in a minute, about the books on my bookshelf, my reading taste, and so forth. So I was getting that itch to definitely buy books again, but I was really trying to be like super strict with myself. So let's go ahead and I'll show you the books that I got in May. So these are the books that I got in May. It's quite a bit, but I still want to break it down for you. So my friend Allie sent me Jelly, so I didn't actually purchase this myself. She kindly sent it to me. The team at Atria Books sent me a copy of Frederick Bachman's upcoming release, Anxious People, and these are the books that I actually purchased, like outside of my book of the month, for the entire 3 months. So I did get the Selection trilogy, like the original box set of the 3 books, the Selection, the Elite, and the One. And the only reason I got this is because I was terrified of not reading anything for Readerama, and it's a readathon that I host with my friends Alex, April, Sarah, and Chloe, and I really did want to have like a decent vlog for you guys. I just wasn't interested in the books that I initially picked for that, and then I was interested in those books, so it was kind of like a little bit of a spur of the moment purchase, and it came a little too late after I was already into Warcross. And yeah, so I don't have solid plans to read this, but I do have it on the back burner. Also purchased myself a copy of Cruel Beautiful World, which the only reason I bought this is because I had recommended it to my friend Jacqueline at We Be Bookin', and I bought it for her birthday, and I was like, I need a copy for my shelf as well. Plus I've already read it, so it's like I wasn't really adding to my TBR. And the last book that I purchased was The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchinson. And this was after I DNF'd all of those thrillers, and I just really wanted something like hard-hitting, twisted, creepy. And I did the live show, and Amy recommended this to me, and well, she recommended it and I took it as a recommendation for me, and so I picked this up. It was like under $10, and I read it and I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad that I made the purchase of this, but I'm kind of regretting this purchase. Okay, so now that we've gone over the books that I actually did get while I was on my book buying ban, it's a total of 13 books, and you can easily see that even when I'm not shopping in the stores at bookstores, or I'm not shopping online for myself, I still manage to accumulate a lot of books. And that's part of the reason why I went on this ban, is because if I wasn't on the ban, it would have been all of these books, and like I'm sure like double this amount. I really think it showcases that yes, I needed to go on this book buying ban. I put down a list of things that I learned, and the first is that this was literally the worst time to go on a book buying ban. If I would have known then what I know now, I would have never done the book buying ban in February for these past couple of months, because obviously we've all had the stay-at-home order, we've been quarantined, social distancing and so forth. I stopped going to work at the end of March. So for like the first 3 weeks in March, I actually did work. I was my normal schedule. And then at the end of the month, I think it was the last week in the month, I didn't have work, and I was out of work, and I had no idea like how long it was going to go for. And obviously I'm still at home, and the school year is pretty much over. We've called it for the year. So I had a lot more time to read, but let's go ahead and go into the second thing. So the next point is that I am, and I probably always will be a mood reader. And I think that's why I always can justify to myself having a larger TBR, is because these are all books that I am interested in, but I don't know when I'll be in the mood to read it. But I like having options. I like having, you know, different things to like spark ideas and interests. And if I'm in the mood for sci-fi, I have a sci-fi to grab. If I'm in the mood for a fantasy, I have a fantasy to grab. If I'm in the mood for a thriller, I have a thriller to grab, and so forth. I also realized that clearing my TBR, or having a small TBR, getting through my TBR, clearing out my TBR, is not as important to me as I initially thought it was. I do get overwhelmed with the amount of books on my TBR because I have limited space in my house. I have these two bookshelves, and I have this one for standalones that are read, and this one is kind of like my series, and I do have some different kind of things at the bottom of this one, like my poetry basket and some graphic novels and stuff like that. And at the very top of these shelves, I have my book of the month collection. But I have my TBR dollhouse that I did do a video of and stuff, and that is really the only place I have to put my TBR books. So I feel like I don't want to outgrow that area. I always do want to keep at least like not more than that, than it can hold. So like when it starts overflowing and stuff like that, I do get a little anxious, but like looking at it now, I actually do have some space that I could put some new books. Also, I've realized that my reading tastes have severely changed since when I joined BookTube and to now. I've been on BookTube for a very long time, so that's to be expected. And I also think before I joined BookTube, I was mainly reading thrillers, like crime novels and mysteries, and yeah, it was basically reading Case for a Peta. And once joining BookTube, I started reading a lot of YA. I started reading some fantasy and some sci-fi and some classics, and I started dabbling in other genres. Poetry, I got reinvigorated into poetry and stuff like that. So I've been reading from those genres and kind of filtering out the ones that I don't like as much, like fantasy and sci-fi. And I've been leaning more heavily towards like romance, contemporary poetry, thrillers still, of course. Yeah, those type of things. So yeah, my tastes have definitely changed, and I still have books on my TBR that do not reflect the changes in my tastes. So I could easily probably go through my TBR shelf right now and pull off like 10 books that I'm not going to read. This is a big one. When I have longer to think about the books that I'm interested in, and I have time to read and watch reviews, I feel I'm better informed to make smart choices when purchasing. So this really comes to light when I know that I'm a particular type of reader, and if I have time to really sit down and not jump into the hype and just buy every single book that I hear about or that I think I'm excited about, and I wait for reviews and thoughts and feelings to come in from bloggers and other booktubers and friends that I trust that read very similar to myself, I can narrow down that list of 100 books to probably like 20 books. And so I really feel like I was able to, books that I was really excited about towards the beginning of my book buying ban, as the months continued, I wasn't as interested in them anymore, so I kind of ditched the idea to get them. And also, like, some friends that read similar to me, you know, had rated them super low, and I was like, well, if they rated it super low because of XYZ, and that's why I would rate it low, I can throw that book out as well. Now, will I possibly miss some gems that my taste will be vastly different? Yes, absolutely. But as you can see, with like still tons of books coming in, there has to be some type of filter of ways for me to not buy all of the books. The next thing that I really wanted to point out is because of COVID-19, I was not able to use my library as much as I wanted to. I do use my library like apps. I use Hoopla, I use Overdrive, I use Libby. I do have an Audible subscription. So those are things that I definitely did take advantage of during this time. However, I really do like to have the physical book sometimes, and I feel like I could have tried out some newer releases had my library been open. So because of that reason, you know, I went out and I bought this instead of being able to try it from my library first, because this is an older book. It's not like old, but it's older. It came out in 2016. So my library probably would have had a copy of this, but because my library was closed, I didn't have that option. So I purchased it instead. Thing with the selection series, I could have easily gotten this from my library, borrowed it from my library, and tried it and then I wouldn't have read it for Readerama, so I wouldn't have had the books. Do you see what I'm saying? So I think that because of the times like COVID and all of that happened, I did still make some purchases that I wouldn't have if my library would have been open, but I don't really necessarily regret them. Next factor is that I mentioned one of the reasons why I went on the ban is because I was working and I didn't have that much time to read. Well, this time I did have tons of time to read, but I still wasn't reading a lot. I definitely got focused in on other hobbies that I have. I still was reading, but not like as much as I think I would have had Animal Crossing not been a thing, and like other things that started taking up some of my time, and that's okay. My life doesn't have to solely revolve around like work and reading. So yeah, it was nice to take a break, as well as like just my mood kind of shifted and I realized like, I'm not really interested in that book anymore. And I actually DNF'd a lot of books as well. Okay, so now that we've gone over a few things that I've learned, here's some things that I want to do moving forward. So the first thing is that I want to set my sights on books by tried and true authors. Auto-buy authors. For example, Riley Sager and Taylor Jenkins Reid. I know that I want them for my collection, but I also know that I really trust their writing and their stories, so I feel confident pre-ordering their books and buying them right away. The other type of books that I will be buying are books that I come across that I haven't heard anybody talk about. Books that could be these hidden gems. Books that I come across that it has a nice cover, I get drawn in, I read the back, I read the synopsis, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds really good. Just to me personally, like the synopsis really pulls me in. And that, like I said, a lot of people haven't talked about it, so I'm not like falling into that hype train. The third thing is that I will get books for projects still. like one of the upcoming things that I want to do is do the second round of Kayla's favorite thrillers. I want to try another 5 thrillers and see if those are more my speed. And the fourth thing is that other books, like hyped books and just other books in general that don't fall into one of those other 3 categories, I want to wait and just have like a passage of time a little bit to see if I'm still interested in them in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months. And I also want to wait until like reviews trickle in and kind of see what other people thought. Like people that I like really trust and have similar like interests, similar reading tastes with, and see what they thought. So those are kind of like things that moving forward I think that will help me like not buy as many books. I mean, I probably still will buy a lot of books, but I think this will help moving forward. Like I actually have a plan this time. So now let's go ahead and talk about pre-orders and some books I'm going to be getting. So I will be doing like a fun summer book haul coming up, so stay tuned for that. But these are some books that you can expect to find in the coming months for the rest of the year. Some pre-orders first. So Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I already said he's a tried and true author. I really enjoyed all of his other books. That comes out at the end of June. You can bet I'm pre-ordering that book, but I do want to wait until Book of the Month releases what books they're doing for June, because if they're doing that Riley Sager book, I'm absolutely snagging it with my credit from Book of the Month. The next one is Survivor Song by Paul Tremblay. Jacqueline and I said that we wanted to buddy read that together. I don't know if she's going to hold off because like she did get approved for an art copy, but that comes out on July 7th. And then Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney comes out on July 28th. And I do want to try this because I've only read one J.P. Delaney, The Perfect Wife, and I really liked it, and I think I'm gonna like this one too. So yes, I will be pre-ordering that. And then One by One by Ruth Ware, which doesn't come out until September 8th, but I'm definitely gonna pre-order that one because I'm just really excited the direction that Ruth Ware is taking. I think her writing has just gotten like better and better and better. So those are really like the only pre-orders I can think about off the top of my head. But some other books are the books for the second round of reading Kayla's favorite thrillers. I'm going to buy my first Stephen King book because a lot of my friends in the Read with Friends group were reading it, and I think it's a really chunky book. It'll probably be the longest book I've ever read, and I think it will be really good to tackle over the summer. I want to buy some romance for Romanceathon, and I want to buy some recommendations from Ariel Bassett because she's like one of my all-time favorite booktubers. So like I said, look forward to a fun book haul coming soon. I can't really say that this ban was a success because like major factors changed and it affected the whole experiment. I don't know if I'll do a ban again in the future, but if I do, you will be the first one to know. But that's all for today's video. I just wanted to update you on a lot of thoughts that I had moving forward and things that you can look forward to. But that's all for today's video. I hope you're having a lovely day or night, and I'll see you guys again soon. Bye!